Tim wants you to give a long speech and then have to start over.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
There you go. You're good to go.
Well, I'm just going to turn it back over to Holly for roll call.
Good morning, everyone. Holly here. Communication rules, just want to remind folks to identify yourself before you speak. You do have folks on the call who may not be able to access videos or see who is speaking at any given point. All right, roll call. I will start with CCI, either Scott, Tina, Julie, or Allison.
Hi, Holly. This is Tina. I'm here.
Thanks, Tina. Representing CML, Jacqueline. Representing Accessibility Community, Cheryl. I know Cheryl is here. Representing the at-large community, Chad Weber. I'm just gonna pull up my participants as well so I can look. I do see Chad listed in the call. Representing BESP Lumen, Tim.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Thank you. Also representing BESP, Mary Jane with Entrado.
Good morning, Holly. I'm here.
Thank you. Representing the ILEX with Lumen, Wes.
Good morning, present.
Good morning. We still have a vacant position for the other ILEC positions, so I'll move on to representing wireless, Jenny from T-Mobile.
Good morning.
I may have heard somebody just now. I see Jenny on, so I'll mark her as here.
Can you hear me?
Representing Viero, Ryan, or Mary.
Mary's here.
Maybe it's my audio. I'm having trouble hearing everybody.
Mary's
Hi.
here.
Thank you. Representing the CLAC or VoIPs, either Cindy, Tina, or Josh.
Cindy's here.
Thank you. Also representing CLAC or VoIPs from Bandwidth, Jay or Erica.
Hey, Holly, this is Michelle McGuire. I am attending in place of Jay Slater.
Representing Gunnison County, Jody.
I'm here.
Representing Morgan County, Danette.
Morning, I'm here.
Representing Grand Junction, I know Jennifer is here.
Good morning.
Representing Larimer, Kimberly or Valerie.
This is Val, I'm here.
Representing AdCom, Jackie or Ron.
This is Jackie and I'm here.
Representing Eagle, Beth.
Good morning, this is Beth and I'm here.
Thank you. Representing Sterling, Valicia.
Valicia is here.
Representing Jeffco, Jeff Irvin.
Jeff Irvin's here.
Representing Delta, Karina.
Good morning. This is Karina.
Representing Douglas, Deanie or Shannon.
Good morning, this is Deanie.
Representing Denver, Andrew or Jody. I do not see anybody from Denver. Representing Jeffcom, Michael or Kevin.
Mike Brewer, present.
Representing Aurora, Tina or Scott.
Morning, Scott Newman's here.
Thank you. Representing Arapahoe, Kathy.
Kathy's here.
Representing Metza, Matt or Alex.
Matt is here.
Representing Garfield, Carl or Tom.
Carl is here.
And last but not least, representing Boulder, Patty or Christine.
Patty West is on.
Thank you. We have quorum and a supermajority.
This is
I'll turn it
Jennifer.
back you to Jennifer.
This is Jennifer. Thank you, Holly. Next up, we've got approval of minutes, which were sent out. So hopefully everybody had a chance to take a look at those, and I would entertain a motion to approve the January minutes or corrections if there are any needed.
This is
This is
Jackie.
Carl. I'll make the motion.
This is Jackie. I'll second.
Thank you, Carl and Jackie. Any further discussion on the minutes? Anyone opposed to approving the minutes as submitted? All right, minutes are approved. Thank you. And we're happy to welcome Nick Brown and Diva Miranda Jones from Carbine for our presentation today. So I will turn it over to both of you, and thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Good morning, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity to meet with you today. I've met a lot of you throughout the state, and it's been great to build these relationships. I look forward to meeting more of you, especially with upcoming Navigator and also the conference in May. So basically today, what we'd like to do is show some of the emerging technologies that are available to 911, whether you're on Mezinet or some of the other states that are still on CAMA trunks, they can still get these next generation capabilities. There are several companies that are kind of doing what Carbine is doing in some ways, shapes, and forms, and I won't really go into differentiators. This isn't a sales pitch, but what we really want to do is show everybody what capabilities are out there. Companies like us continue to expand and grow here in the United States, and it's becoming kind of wildfire throughout the nation, honestly. So I kind of equate it personally to how when NAEMD first built the cards, and there was some resistance to these kind of changes. And then ProQA came out, and my dispatch center, for one, was fairly resistant to using those products. But now it's become a staple that is something that can, basically introduce liability if you're not using them. And I see some of these functionalities with these new next generation 911 capabilities that will eventually become that staple and an expectation from the public. And I think they're very powerful tools that can really change not only outcomes based upon the ability to get some incredible situational awareness long before arrival, first unit arrival, as well as the ability to find someone quickly using the technology. So we just want to share, we're going to do a demonstration of our cloud native product called Apex that has a lot of these new capabilities that are becoming more and more prevalent throughout the United States, as mentioned. And Diva is going to go ahead and show a demo of that product. Please feel free to shoot any questions that you may have while she's presenting into the chat, and I'll try to monitor and answer those as they are asked. If I can't answer, I'll make sure Diva has a list of them at the end. She's a lot smarter than I am. And then a little bit about myself. I'm here in Westminster, Colorado, been here for quite some time, in about 10 years in Colorado, but I started as a dispatcher at 18 years old, ultimately a supervisor at a large consolidated center in Utah called Valley Emergency Communications. They handle about 33% of all the 911 calls in the entire state. Spent 9 years at Motorola, ultimately managing some on-site administrators that Motorola charges a primo dollar for to be a badge Motorola on-site. So I've worked with Las Vegas Metro Police, LAPD, a lot of the DC area agencies, Michigan State Patrol, et cetera. So really good and unique opportunity to really understand the differences, throughout the nation when it comes to 911 PSAPs. So rather than windbag any further, I'll turn the time over to Diva to introduce herself, although I'm pretty sure it's not very necessary in Colorado. And then, of course, she'll go ahead and start that demo. So thank you again for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you, Nick. Hi, everyone. I'm Diva Miranda Jones. I'm based out of Aurora, Colorado. Been with Carbine now for about a little over a year and a half. And many of you know me from Aurora 911 when I used to work there. Hi, Scott. anyhow, I'm really excited to show what type of capabilities there are now with call handling systems, as as agencies across the nation are now starting to think about what next gen 911 is going to look like in their comm centers and what kind of capabilities can be present to them all in one platform. So once EZNet can start delivering more of that information into our comm centers, we have to have some way of still getting it now until we can actually get it delivered by the carriers. So how companies are doing that now, and how it's presented all in one platform is something that a lot of people are taking a look at. Instead of having to wait for it to come to them, the technology is available. So just to show you this phone screen, this is going to be, again, our Apex product. This is a call handling solution. So it is cloud native. A lot of products out there are either cloud-based or cloud native. They can be delivered on-prem, on legacy camera trunks, or they can be delivered on an EZNet or also in the cloud, or a hybrid of being on-prem or in the cloud. So lots of options out there for agencies to start considering, especially if they are still on camera trunks or they are on an EZNet. How can they start utilizing what's available now? With this phone screen, it's got a video pane built into it. We have a map in here. I'm going to show what location can look like, and also what video and silent chat can look like as well. And these products also are able to support text to 911 and TTY and all of those type of capabilities that we already have in our phone systems and that we're currently used to. Okay, I am going to go ahead and just start off by diving into the product. We're going to do a really high level overview just so you can see what it looks like. And again, any questions that you have, if you want to go ahead and put them into chat, I want to make sure that you can see some of these features that the systems are capable of. And then Nick can go ahead and answer some of those questions in chat. And then afterwards, if we need to see anything again, or you have any additional questions, we can take care of that also after the demo. I'm going to go ahead and present a scenario where we have someone driving through a neighborhood and they have spotted a car that's on fire. They don't know the address. They were just driving through, delivering Uber or something to that effect. And so they don't know where they're at. They just see that a car is on fire, so they're dialing 911. I'm going to go ahead and call or simulate, not calling into 911 right now. And so we can see the phone call coming in. It's going to present visually having a red flashing, different ringtones, all of that can be utilized. So I'm going to go ahead and answer the call. Information such as AML information, I'm going to also mute myself so we don't get too much, echo going on. But information such as AML information, anti-alley information will populate into the system. Up here in device location, we have a network location field as well. If you will notice down here in this video pane, we do have transcription happening. I'm going to go ahead and mute myself real quickly here just so we don't continue to get an echo through the system. But that transcription that was happening can be extremely helpful. So utilizing technology such as natural language processing, AI, machine learning, all those types of things that we're hearing about entering into our industry that have already been being utilized in other industries can really help our call takers start to communicate much easier and better with our callers. So if the call taker answers the phone, the caller is speaking really quickly, maybe they missed something that the caller said, they can come right over into a transcription pane, take a look at what was said previously in the conversation. This has been tested in large venues with a lot of background noise going on, and 98% of what was being said by the caller was being picked up pretty accurately. So this is really exciting to see when we hear about people calling in and there's screaming, yelling going on in the background, fire alarms going off, Lots of background noise and having to ask the caller the same questions over and over again. This allows the call taker to go into transcription and be able to see what the caller is saying. AI and machine learning we are also doing things here in this industry with translation. So being able to translate and detect when another language is being spoken. For example, Spanish. Somebody were to call up and start speaking Spanish. Up here at the top, it says no translation detected right now, but it can start detecting Spanish and translating for the call taker what somebody is saying in Spanish. As we look at what NG 911 systems are going to look like in the future and very soon, having things like a bot being able to audibly translate. So when someone's speaking in Spanish, a bot will translate in English to the call taker responds in English, and the bot translates to Spanish to your caller. Those types of systems can support, anywhere up to 90 languages or more. So it's what's really exciting about seeing these progressions that are being made in the phone systems today. Okay, getting back to our scenario, we can now understand that our caller is telling us that there is a fire going on and they don't know where they're at. AML information has come in, but maybe we want to get just a little bit more information. So one thing that this particular phone system does is it will send out a text message. I'm going to move my cell phone over here into the screen so you can see what my cell phone here looks like. Sends out an SMS text message or a WhatsApp message to the caller. And what the caller will do is go ahead and click on that message. It will open up, it will have the agency's name in there, asking them to go ahead and click the hyperlink to enable location and video. We're going to go ahead and do that. It's going to open up in the caller's web browser on their cell phone. So callers don't have to have apps downloaded anymore in order to share this information, right? It's going to open up in their web browser. It's going to ask permission to share their location. The caller is going to allow those permissions and also ask permission to share their camera. Those are per FCC regulations that we need to ask those questions. Okay. Now, information is starting to come through. So again, we have latitude and longitude that's come in. We also have a dispatchable address. We've got an accuracy of how close we are and where we can find our caller. We are also seeing in here altitude. So as we start looking at things like elevation, even having some integrations with other companies out there that are doing different types of mapping, 3D mapping, Z-axis, all of that is available and can be pulled into this phone system, right? It's got open APIs, so other IoT can be pulled in as well. We've also got speed. So if the phone were moving, every 10 meters that the phone moves, it can also send that information and track where the phone is going and how quickly it's moving. Mapping is being built into a lot of these phone systems, just allowing some agencies use this as their primary map versus their CAD map. Other agencies use their CAD map as their primary map, and this would just be a supplement to it. But utilizing technology such as what Google has to offer, again, or being able to bring in Esri mapping or any other type of mapping that an agency wants. Being able to do a satellite view and have an overview of the neighborhood where the caller is calling from, seeing exactly where they're located, being able to turn on different map layers, such as traffic, for example. How busy is the area? How long will it take for a first responder to get into that area? If there's a traffic jam somewhere, how can that affect their routing? So really being able to use a lot of different information that is coming in and that we have availability to today, even us from our cell phones, and being able to plug that into the 911 center, it just brings a ton of information. Okay, so we now have location. As you can see, the video has been running here as well. Video bringing in information from what's happening on scene. Right now, what we're seeing is there is indeed what looks like maybe a car fire, or is this fire coming from inside a garage? So now we actually can understand that this is not just a simple vehicle fire. This is actually a full structure fire. We need to send out more units to this. We actually need to send out that full structure fire complement. So that's the kind of information that streaming video can bring into us. Now, with video being in the comm center, we've got a lot of different options with this. As a call taker, maybe they don't want to see the video. It can be presented to them in a hidden or a blurred mode. And that's to take care of their mental health and empower them to decide when and if they're going to see video. If they're watching the video and they decide they don't want to see it, they can easily hide it. With these with this type of a situation, hiding the video does not mean that it is not being monitored or can't be recorded. In fact, it is being recorded in the background, being saved to a GovCloud. And so a lot of our particular product offers that our particular product does offer that data to be stored in the AWS GovCloud. So a lot of products are offering that. And being able to have that video saved so it can be accessed later for investigations or quality assurance or records request. Also, if the call taker is not watching the video, somebody else can see the video. So being able to take this video and send it out to first responders, right? That's one example of being able to do that. Here in our scenario, as the call taker, I am comfortable watching this video, but I do want to send this out to first responders. So I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to click on, there's a little link button here. I'm just going to click on a hyperlink. It's going to go ahead and copy that information to a clipboard. If I can, let me see if I can find out real quickly how I can share this in our chat with all of you. Because I actually want to take this. Let me see here. Sorry. I don't use Zoom that often. Let me see. Well, oh, here I see it. Okay, here's the chat, everyone. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, I am pasting in our chat that hyperlink. So if your firewalls allow for some live streaming, I invite each of you who are watching this to go ahead and click on that hyperlink. And this could just be an example of what our firefighters would be able to watch as they're arriving on scene. So this can be pasted into CAD notes. It can be pasted into CAD messaging. It can be pasted into an email, for example, and sent to those first responders for them to click on and be able to see what the call taker is seeing and what the caller is showing them. For those of you who have clicked on it, if you're watching it, it's going to open up in your web browser and it's going to open up at the location, right? So it's also sending location. If we were, if this were a moving domestic, for example, and the caller was continuing to drive, then the location would update for the first responder. They could follow where the caller is going. In the top right-hand corner, there is also in the top left-hand corner there's also a camera icon. So if you'll click on that camera icon, you now see the video. And if you're not able to click on it or don't want to click on it, then I am showing it on the screen share right now. So that video can emulate what our first responders are seeing as they're driving on scene. Again, decisions can now be made by those responders. They can now make some additional decisions about this fire. Do they need additional resources? How many people are around? Do they need the police department to assist them? Is there anyone with injuries? Lots of decisions could be made by those first responders before even arriving on scene. Now, if we want to take this video and also share it elsewhere, we can. So there's also things like video board that can be done where the videos can be pushed into one place, put up in a command center. This is now being shown on my screen share, where you can view multiple video feeds at once that are coming into your comm center. Real-time crime centers can take advantage of this. So just being able to aggregate data that is coming into 911 and get it to the people who need to see it, who need to make decisions from it, and who can monitor it all at once. Okay. I am going to take us right back to our call taker screen, and our call taker can do some screenshots from here. If the caller, I'm going to come to our caller section here. If our caller has is unable to speak, or it's not safe for them to speak, they can actually click right on this little chat icon here, and they can actually send messages to our call taker. And this is going to be a little separate from our text to 911 in that it's coming through this data connection that we've established with our caller. Here in our chat pane box, this is where all text to 911s would come in, TTY, all of those things that we use to communicate with our community would all be in one place. So you don't have to have any over-the-top products or anything. Being able to communicate right back to the caller pretty easily. We're getting verification that the caller received the messages with a double check mark here, and being able to share also other types of information. So as the caller, maybe they have a picture of the suspect who maybe started this fire that they took right before calling 911, they can take that information and upload it from their cell phone and send it in. So again, all of these things with next generation 911 that we've been waiting for and looking for can be available now in products such as this. Being able to take a look. So for those of you who are wondering what you're looking at, these are seals. I was at Kalanina this week and we were in La Jolla Beach, and so took pictures of some seals out there. So we'll just pretend those are our suspects who started the fire. But being able to take a look at this information, that either screenshots that you've taken or information that the caller has sent in. Now, if we're wanting to go ahead and we need to transfer this somewhere, we do have the ability to have all of our contacts in here, just like your regular phone systems, right? Being able to have all of your contacts in here, you can come in here and search for a particular contact as needed. Also grouping them, being able to have your speed dials available, and being able to conference and transfer people as needed. And so I'm going to go ahead and call. I think we're going to call Wellman 911. I think he's on a plane right now, so he probably won't answer, which would be a good thing. But being able to conference people in, if we decide that we don't want to talk to that person, or maybe we had dialed them in error, we can easily hang up without having any confusion about if we've hung up on the caller or not. So again, this is a regular phone system, and I just wanted to show how a call handling platform can incorporate these things of next gen 911, AI, machine learning, IoT, all that information that can come into a call handling platform and put it all in one space and really be user friendly and easy for call takers to utilize. And also being able to take information that we're receiving in this call handling system and giving it to others to view as well. So again, this was just a very high level demo. We're not going over every single feature or anything, but just wanted to give you an overview of that. I think probably about 10 minutes, right, Jennifer? But what I want to do now is go ahead and open up for questions, or if there's anything any comments that anyone wants to give me, I appreciate. So I'll go ahead and open up the floor for everyone. I do see a question in here from Cheryl. TTY, TDD use analog line. Yes, and it does work in here. So this will accept phone calls from analog lines, and those from landlines and from TTY and TDDs as well. Obviously, those types of devices, because it's a landline, will not be able to send, video and that type of thing. However, the TTY and TDD calls will come right into here. Also using real-time text as well from cell phones. All of that will present here in the chat. So what that would look like, Cheryl, is that it would come in like a phone call into the system. Call taker will answer it. And then as soon as somebody starts sending messaging in TTY or TDD, or we send out the message in TDD or TTY, the call taker come right in here. We can switch over to a TTY message if needed, and we can go ahead and send a message to somebody, and it's going to go ahead and send out those tones, and it can receive the tones as well, and they could start chatting via TTY or TDD.
Okay, may I ask? If what is your emergency? Are you saying flip it around? Are you flip it around instead of what is your emergency to are you having an emergency for those speech impaired people? Or I should say people are speech impaired. What's that? Some people? For me, for example, I cannot tell you what my emergency is. But I can say yes. Are you if they ask, are you having an emergency? Yes, I am. He won't leave me alone.
Yes, thank you very much for that feedback. I will go ahead and have our I will go ahead and have that we just have some canned messages in here, but that's great feedback. Thank you, Cheryl. I'll go ahead and get that changed so that when we do show what TTY would look like, that it's coming across correctly and can showcase differently. So thank you very much. I will go ahead and get that changed.
Can you send me your list of your what, Cheryl? Your canned responses?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm done.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
All right. Are there any other questions from anyone?
I think I see Daryl's hands up.
Okay, Daryl, go ahead.
Hi, this is Daryl. Thank you. And just to clarify, I think the canned responses are probably customizable by PSAP. Isn't that right? Okay.
Absolutely, yes. They are customizable by PSAP. So if you're wanting to add some additional things in there that can obviously be sent out, then yes, the PSAP can customize those. And this is also free text available as well. So being able to just come in and type out information, of course, from the call taker to the caller is pretty easy. So yes, those canned messages are customizable per PSAP.
And is text and RTT, is the CPE basically able to handle that directly, or do you still need to engage with a text to 911 provider to get that into the system?
So we do have for the text to 911, we do still go through the TCC provider, so Intrado or Comtech or one of those type of companies that provides it. So yes, we would utilize whatever TCC the PSAP is currently using.
And on RTT, is the call taker still able to hear background noise?
Yes.
Very cool.
If the caller still has their microphone open. I have played with RTT on my cell phone quite a bit, and so I've noticed that on my cell phone it allows me to keep the microphone open where background noise comes through, or if I mute it, then it will send the RTT, but it will mute mute me basically, or mute my microphone so that noise isn't coming through. So, but yes, it can still send that that information in the background through on the speaker.
Very good. And just a comment, I hadn't seen the live transcription of voice call feature before, and the ability to translate potentially those voice calls, which I think is potentially very timely, given a bill that was just introduced this morning in the Colorado legislature about interpretation services for 911. So just wanted to point that out to everybody.
Yeah, it is really exciting to see that. And you know, for our product right now, we're kind of doing things in phases where you see the transcription translation coming through. We're looking by end of Q2 to introduce the voice bot that will be doing that. And so it's really exciting to see how technology can really not just enhance, but elevate what we are doing as call takers. And, you know, all of us have had some experiences with utilizing a third-party interpreter, or trying to find one, or waiting on hold for that interpreter to come on the line, and not knowing where your caller is at, or not being able to understand right away what is happening. And it's precious seconds that are going by. It's further anxiety for the caller and the call taker, who can't help, especially when they can tell that there's truly an emergency going on. So I think that those transcriptions and the translations themselves, it turns our industry, I feel like, on its head, right? It really opens up to what's available out there and how we can better provide service to our communities, especially communities that speak very different languages. And in Aurora, where I live, I mean, last I heard, there was over 150 different languages spoken in Aurora. So thinking about how that can really provide better service to our communities is huge. All right, any other questions or comments? Sorry, Daryl, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, this is Daryl. Holly asked in the chat what platform is used for the translations.
We are using AWS, and which is Amazon, and also we are taking those and enhancing it. So we've actually got the translations in test right now for our product, and in some of our comm centers right now, they're testing it. We're taking some of the important words that we need to make sure that we are picking up, some law enforcement words and medical terms, for example, and really testing to make sure that it's picking up and translating appropriately. But right now, all of our translation is being done through AWS.
I'm sorry, this is Daryl again. Do you have any customers, or can you tell us how many customers you have in Colorado?
So in Colorado, we do have some customers using our Universe product. And Nick, I'll let you go ahead and answer a little bit more about our customer, Pitkin County being one of them. And then with Apex, we've got some customers throughout the country. So Nick, I'll let you go ahead and take over on that question there.
Trying to unmute. I'm sorry, can you clarify? I was on the phone at the same time. Were we talking about what's going on in Colorado now?
Yeah, customers in Colorado.
All right, so right now we have Pitkin County, Colorado, so they're up in the Vail area. They've been using Universe for quite a long time. Effectively, Brad and the team use it on almost every call, and they've automated the text link to go out to everything. Obviously, with that, you know, they have a lot of skiers or from out of town or even the country, have no idea where they are, and that's been really helpful with the latitude, longitude, and elevation, things like that. I have been working with some big agencies in Colorado. These things take time, as you can imagine. You know, people have existing contracts. So there's a lot that I have that's going to be coming this year. I can't really speak a lot to it, but I think you're going to see a lot more pop up. And I've been working pretty heavily in Utah and Washington. There's going to be a fair amount in some of the surrounding states that we have here too. So I'd love to speak more to that, and I could probably do that at a more individual level, but out of respect for the people that are considering potential partnerships with me, I have to kind of, you know, keep that at that. So
This is Jennifer. I would love to have Diva or Nick explain what you just put in the chat, because I think that
Yes.
there's some question about what Universe is versus what Apex is.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Jennifer. I just realized as I had Nick talking about it that I didn't explain what Universe is. So again, this is Diva, and Apex is what I just showed you. Apex is our phone system that has everything integrated into it. Universe is another product that we offer. So if your comm center is not yet ready to replace the phone system, or you're not at a place where you can do that, then we also, and companies like us, offer over-the-top products where you don't have to replace your phone system, you don't have to replace your CAT system, but they sit over the top and they allow you to send out the text message to the caller and allow the caller to share their location and share video, live stream video, and do some chat through that over-the-top product. So we also have that as well. And that's something with emerging technology that you see out there, giving comm centers the ability to access NG 911, whether it's through their phone system itself, or if they're not ready to replace their phone system, in another way that they can do that right now. So hopefully that makes sense and answers that question.
Thanks, Diva. This is Jennifer. I had one question about recording. Obviously, you've got a lot of information coming into the Apex or the Universe product with your picture there that you sent and with the video and that kind of thing. So does Carbine have a recording solution, or do they have preferred recorder systems that they partner with, or how does that work?
Yes. So with Carbine, us in particular, we do have every single phone call in Apex, and everything that happens in Universe is recorded and saved to the AWS Gov Cloud. It is available by that data is owned by the agency, and so they can actually access it through a web browser to be able to come right in to what we call events history and pull up all of their information. It is unlimited data storage, and retention can be set to match retention policies. And so being able to come in and pull that information here. We also have partnerships and integrations with some phone logger as well. So if you're using a phone logger and want this information to go into that recording system that you're currently using, we can do that as well. So you can either have, one of two ways to access your information. And again, being that we do have an open API, it makes it really easy for us to push information into other systems, as long as that other system is okay to accept it. But we do have some partnerships with some phone loggers, and we've already done some integrations with them to make that happen if you prefer to continue using your phone logger.
Yeah, and Jennifer, we some of the cloud native, this is Nick Brown, some of our cloud native offerings are, we partner with Exacom and some of the other companies, but we are working on our own voice logging recorder. We're looking to partner with some of the upcoming Apex customers that we have around the nation to help build that, to really target what's needed. It'll have, of course, radio integration, all that fun stuff, but the cool thing about being a cloud native system is we can innovate fairly effectively. And I don't know if Diva has gone into, if anybody's interested in hearing more specifically about Carbine, we'd be happy to tell you, but there's a lot of new integrations that we're working on. One of them is dispatcher sentiment. That is huge. We use AI to look at words used, voice inflection, and things like that to get an idea of what a baseline each employee looks like. And then when they deviate from that, a break in their voice, things like that, that can indicate pain or, distress or whatever it may be, it will send notifications basically that maybe it's time to talk to this individual and see if they actually need some additional help. So we're really pushing towards the things the industry has needed for a long period of time, because employee retention is important more than ever. But point is, that's more Carbine specific, and I'd be happy to give anybody and everybody a demo who wants to listen at your PSAP. And I do believe I'm coming your way next month, Jennifer. So
that's what I'm told. Okay, sorry, I was just scrolling through to see if we had any other hands up. This is Jennifer. Does anybody have any other questions for Diva or Nick? All right, thank you guys so much for being with us. And you are most welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting, but I know your time is valuable. And so you're welcome to jump to the next thing as well. Thanks very much for being here.
Our pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And Jennifer, before they go, I want to say thank you to Nick and Diva. Our scheduled speaker became unresponsive and wouldn't respond to my emails, but Nick and Diva stepped in on short notice, so I appreciate that.
Our pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity, Daryl and team.
All right, this is Jennifer. Moving on to standing reports, and we're going to do standing reports a little bit differently. So I'm going to let Daryl and or Holly explain how we're going to proceed moving forward.
Hi, this is Daryl. So what we talked about a few months ago, and we never really implemented it, but we're going to try to implement it starting today, is we're really encouraging the committee chairs to provide a written report. And then, which we have for a while now, and then the idea is that everyone will read that written report before the meeting so that we don't have to just have the committee chair read what's already been written and available to the rest of the task force. So the idea is that when we go through these, instead of reading everything that's in there, especially mine, because it's usually the longest, the committee chair will mention anything that's not in their written report. And then if anybody has any follow-up questions regarding what's in the written report or anything else that the committee chair talked about, then there'll be an opportunity for that as well. So starting off on that, since mine is the first committee report, I'll just note that I did put a fairly extensive written report in the standing reports document. There was one new item that I included just this morning. I sent an email out, but if anybody hasn't seen that email, it's about a new bill that was just introduced. I will say that somebody already asked me if I knew what the source of that bill was, and I do not. This morning was the first I have seen of it. I knew that there had been some questions from legislators about foreign language interpretation at PSAPs, and now I know what those questions were about because they were probably related to this bill. So I encourage everyone to take a look at that bill and see what's in it, because it might eventually affect you. And beyond that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Phil. I can find out. She said, I can find out. Who submitted that bill? Because I'm on the committee. To never mind. I'll let you know who sponsored that bill.
Okay, I mean, we know who the bill sponsors are. As far as the legislators go, I think the question was where it came from, if it came from a interest group, and that I don't know. So if you have a way to find that out, Cheryl, I think people might be interested to know.
All right.
And then the only other thing I want to add before I lose the opportunity, I want to acknowledge that we have a couple of retirements. Both Wes Horn and Mary Jane Rasher are retiring, and both Wes and Mary Jane have been a huge part of 911 in Colorado for a very long time. And I want to express my appreciation to both of them and wish them the best moving forward. And Mary Jane and Wes, if either of you have retirement parties that anybody might be interested in attending, please let me know.
Well, thank you very much for the kind words, Daryl. And I know Mary probably feels the same way. It's work well worth doing, and it's been enjoyable. And there is a party at my house, and you're invited. The whole group is.
And thank you, Daryl. And Daryl, I didn't use the retirement word. I said I'm not going to be with Entrado. So
okay. I might have misunderstood, Mary Jane. I apologize for that. Well, whatever you're going to next, I hope it's something bigger and better.
Thank you. And thank you. I've enjoyed working with all of you for almost 14 years. So I want to wish all of you the best. Thank you.
Thank you. I echo Daryl's sentiments to both Wes and Mary Jane, and thank you for your service to 911 in Colorado. Before we move on, I saw Scott Newman's hand go up, and I also saw Carl Stevens. So Scott, did you have something?
Thanks, Jennifer. Actually, Daryl answered it for me, so I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Carl?
Yeah, on the bill that Daryl spoke about, the representative that is sponsoring that, she was a PIO on several fires, and I think that's from her experience.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And looks like Daryl's pulled the bill up here.
I just put the
He's like our representative as well as like the Pitkin area, and then Will is our senator for this area as well.
Oh, Velasco. Okay.
I just put the link, the direct link to the bill in the chat if anybody wants to access it that way, but the link is also in the standing report document. So anybody have any questions for me regarding anything in the written report or anything that I didn't touch on? Okay, thank you.
This is Jennifer. Thank you, Daryl. Because it's new this month, I just wanted to kind of slowly scroll down the list of reports and see if anybody who is on the call that submitted a report has anything to add to the report or to clarify in the report that they submitted before we move on from reports.
And Jennifer, since we've got a couple that didn't submit written reports, it might be good to just call those out one at a time and see if the committee chair has anything to add.
Okay. Well, then I guess Lumen's up. That's who I see on the screen.
Hey, everybody, this is Tim. My apologies. I guess I didn't realize you were asking us to do the same thing. I thought it was just for the committees. So my apologies on that. I do have a few things. One, I just got, as we were sitting here moments ago, the approval to release the agreements that Lumen has with Intrado prior to that Monday deadline that I had informed many of you about. So I will be pulling all those emails together here this morning and sending those agreements out to folks that have signed NDAs in the EZNet user group proceeding and then in the ECATS tariff process. And then I have a question with regard, so as we're finalizing this ECATS tariff amendment, and first thanks to so many people for helping with language and the process and the conversation along the way. It's been invaluable. But I have a question, and I'm trying to go through our existing tariff just to try and understand what the correct nomenclature should be. So we tend to use governing bodies, PSAPs, customer, sort of throughout these documents. And I'm not sure entirely what the right phrasing should be. Should we always refer to you all as governing bodies? I know, some of you are a single PSAP. Does that still mean, does governing body still apply appropriately? And then some of you have, multiple PSAPs underneath your governing body. And again, I suppose the governing body phrase would be valid for all of those PSAPs, but I'm just trying to make sure that we use some consistent language that everybody understands and has the same definition of. So I don't know if anybody's got any thoughts on that. Again, I do appreciate a lot of the feedback we've got, and some of that is around some of this naming convention. And so I'd appreciate if anybody had any thoughts on that. in terms of just being consistent with language. Matt, yes, sir. You helped drive some of this question too, Matt, because I was going through your changes here this morning, and I again appreciate those. So
Yeah.
sure we're
I was just chuckling. It sounds familiar.
yeah, that's right.
I guess for purposes of the tariff language, I feel like it should be either customer or governing body. The
Okay.
jurisdiction, which is the paying customer, which
Yeah,
may
yeah.
may or may not also be the PSAP's governing body.
Yeah, this Tim, thanks for that, Matt. Joe, see your hand up.
Yeah, under the statute, the governing body is the one that the ETCs are remitted to and disperses those funds.
Right.
But I don't know that there aren't cases where the governing body could disperse the money to the PSAP, which would write the check. You know, I don't know who the customer is that orders the service from you, and that would be actually be a question for you as to do you have any PSAPs that are, and it might be, for example, a police department or a sheriff's department that are ordering the EZNet service from you, or is in all cases is it the governing body?
Yeah, and I don't know, Wes, if you can maybe help with sort of the specifics on that. I mean, I feel like governing body is probably correct. You know, I was looking at, you know, just some previous, like when we did the EZNet itself, you know, we use a BES customer, but then we also mention a PSAP occasionally. And then we sometimes just say customer, don't even say BES in front of it. But you're right, in going up through, say, the definitions, just scroll back up here for a governing body, it talks kind of what you just mentioned, Joe, about the organization responsible for establishing, collecting, and dispersing the emergency telephone charge in a specific geographic area. But in this definition, it doesn't necessarily say that that's also the customer. And then there's no definition of, well, there's an E911 customer definition, which isn't really appropriate anymore. And then we don't have just a definition of customer. So I think what I'll probably do is kind of take the lead that Matt gave me with some changes, is just to refer to typically to the governing body or customer, and I'll take out references to where it says, you know, the PSAP would be purchasing this, or we'd be enabling it for the PSAP. We'd be enabling it at a PSAP, but maybe, you know, for a governing body or customer.
Sorry, Joe, that's the complicated part in that tariff language, because some of those sections are about providing to the customer.
Yeah.
In other cases, I think, I'm sorry.
And they're associated PSAPs, but we may have PSAPs that are separate legal entities in partnership with the governing body.
Sure. And that's sort of what I was trying to make sure. And so, you know, a lot of times I had put, you know, governing body or PSAP or PSAP even. And I'm not sure that was always correct, but right. I just didn't want it to be confusing where it's, well, but I don't actually pay this bill, but you're part of this organization or something like that. I mean, I'm sure it's not common, but I didn't want it to be a confusing situation where I'm sort of interchanging multiple terms that may or may not be perceived as interchangeable all the time.
In other cases, we've used governing body or PSAP because people have said that there are PSAPs which are have the primary responsibility, you know, for ordering the services I don't know if that of personal knowledge, if you have documents signed by which the ESI net service was ordered in the different jurisdictions, that would tell you, or you can just define customer as the governing body or PSAP which has ordered the services from.
Yeah, yeah,
But we're getting to detail that we don't need for this call.
sure. No, right. And I appreciate everybody taking the time here. Okay.
One example briefly, Tim.
Yeah.
The San Miguel PSAP might still be paying for EZNet service in their name instead of their 911 board. I can't remember if they changed that.
Okay.
Wes, do you remember?
Matt, I don't recall, to be honest with you.
Sure.
Yes, Daryl.
Not to belabor it any further, but I think, based on my review of emergency telephone charge applications, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be the authority that's paying for the EZNet service, which would include, the ECAT service. But I know there's at least one example where there's a PSAP that doesn't even have a governing board, and that's Buckley Air Force Base. So I think keeping the language open so that it can accommodate both situations is probably what you're going to want to shoot for.
Okay, thank you.
That might be what drove the customer wording.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, I'll fix some of that. So I appreciate that feedback. So I'll be sending out then those agreements here shortly. And then I do appreciate some of the feedback I've gotten on the tariff amendment language itself and the study, as well as the kind of this roadmap letter, if you will, for lack of a better phrase, that are put together. So I appreciate the feedback on that as well. And so then I guess my last thing would be, I still am shooting for then filing this tariff next week. I think the 17th still seems appropriate. We could probably move that up a handful of days if folks were comfortable with that, having a chance to look at these agreements sooner. So I'd take some feedback on that, not necessarily here, but just after I send those out, if there are folks who say I'd like a little more time before you file that. And then if there's anybody here that hasn't been part of those conversations that would like to see these documents, please reach out to me and I'll be happy to provide those to you. I think that is all for me. Thank you.
This is Jennifer. Thank you, Tim. Any questions for Tim? Okay, moving on to Entrado. I think Mary Jane, you don't get away too quickly.
No report for you, but thank you.
Thank you. And thanks again so much for all you've done. And we look forward to cheering you on in your next adventure.
Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Okay, moving down the list. Looks like next, do we have Kelly Bowman on with for a 988 report? Okay, not hearing from Kelly. Kathy Rayleigh, I know the EZNet users group meeting was just yesterday. Did you have a report for us, Kathy?
Good morning, everybody. I don't have a report. It was yesterday. It was a fairly quick meeting. I know that one of the things that we were expecting and we're looking forward to seeing is the settlement document that we've been speaking with CenturyLink or Lumen for a while. So hopefully we'll see that on Monday. Other than that, not much of an update.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Kathy? Okay, sorry, Daryl, I was just going down the list of reports and calling for people who hadn't gotten a chance to submit yet. And that's why it's out of order.
No problem. I didn't realize that the standing report list was in a different order than the agenda.
Well, it's probably not. It's just, I'm only calling on people who hadn't yet had a chance to submit.
Oh, I see.
So the next person was Karen with Rapid SOS, but she put in the chat that there was no update. Did you have anything to add, Karen? Thanks for being with us.
No, nothing's out at this time. Everything's still working great, and just appreciate everyone here in Colorado, of course, our hometown.
Great, thank you. And it looks like everybody else submitted a report. So does anybody who submitted a report have anything to add, or does anybody have any questions on any of the reports that were submitted?
This is Cheryl. I do.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
I want to ask. You want to ask what? I want to ask everyone to jump on our call on March 30th. On March 30th, the 911 equal access. I would like some input. For what kind of ideas? For ideas? Yeah. For training.
This is Jennifer. That would be great. Is it possible to add the call information to your report so that we have it?
What's that? Daryl, can you provide that?
Yes, let me get it right now.
This
Okay,
is
thank
Holly. I
you.
just added it.
Oh, thank you. You what? You got lost? Thank you. I need to hop off.
No problem. Thank you for being here. And thank you, Holly, for adding that. Daryl, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to add, this is Daryl. I just want to add that this committee is going to be shifting its focus a little bit. Up till now, it's been kind of getting information, hearing from speakers on accessibility issues. And going forward, I've suggested that this committee put some focus on creating training for PSAP personnel on how to better serve customers and serve callers who have accessibility needs. But in order to be successful at that, the committee is really going to have to get more participation from people with a training background, people with frontline experience in the PSAP, so that the training will be written in a way that's useful to the telecommunicators. So I really encourage people to start attending those meetings. We'll make sure that the meetings are on the task force calendar. If you want to join the committee, let us know and we can get you added so that you'll automatically be notified of meetings. But we really want to encourage participation in this committee going forward so that that effort can be successful.
This is Cheryl. And this is not all about me. Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Cheryl. And thank you, Daryl. And Holly, you have your hand up.
This is Holly. I just added my comment in the chat to what Daryl said, but also like, where do PSAPs feel like you have gaps in your training so that those gaps can be passed on to the committee, who can then reach out to the folks that Daryl's talking about that have the background to provide that training. I mean, we might think we have a bunch of great ideas, but those ideas may not be targeting the areas where your, centers or PSAPs feel like you have specific gaps. So I think that's another good reason to attend, is to help the committee understand where some of those areas are still lacking.
Thank you, Holly. That's a really good point. And I know we have a lot of great and knowledgeable folks in this group. So the more we can get to that meeting, the better. So thank you both very much. And thank you, Cheryl.
Bye.
See ya. Okay. This is Jennifer. I think that's all we have for the standing reports. So we'll look forward to that new process for the next meeting as well. And just be sure to read them ahead of time so you can come prepared with questions. Thank you, everybody. Next up, we have old business, and we have approval of the 2023 recommended standards. So I'm going to turn this over to Daryl so he can explain the background on this.
Thank you, Jennifer. So commission rules require that the task force provide the commission with a set of recommended standards that the commission can reference whenever they are considering a proceeding that involves 911. The commission is not required to follow these standards. They are only recommended, but the regulation does require that the task force provide this on an annual basis. I previously provided this draft to the task force back in November with the intention of having the task force vote on it in January, but that slipped through the cracks. And since I sent this out to everyone this morning, I got an email from Matt, and I'm going to see if I can switch which screen I am highlighting on so I can show the email from Matt. He suggested 3 additional standards that could be added to the list. Can everybody see that? So these are the 3 that he has suggested be added to the list. One is a NG911 GIS data template. There is an update in progress apparently on that standard, but it is a standard that that already exists. Same thing on the next one, a GIS template file, and then a informational document from Nina on GIS data stewardship for next generation 911. I don't have any objections to adding these to the list. So I wanted to first open it up and see if anybody else has any other suggested changes, additions, deletions from the recommended standards list. And if not, I would suggest Jennifer maybe taking a motion to adopt the standards with the addition of Matt's 3 suggestions.
This is Jennifer. Thank you, Daryl. Does anybody have anything else or any other standards to add or questions about the standards that are being proposed? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve these recommended standards with the addition of the 3 that Matt recommended.
This is Matt. So moved.
And this is Scott, second.
Thank you, Matt and Scott. Any further discussion? And is anyone opposed to approving the motion? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have Resource Center appointments. I'm going to again rely on Daryl to explain the background for this. We've got some work to do as far as appointing some people to the Colorado 911 Resource Center Board. Daryl?
So this is Daryl, another topic that fell through the cracks in January. I just was not on the ball with the agenda in January. I apologize for that. The task force appoints 4 out of the 5 board members on the Resource Center Board. 3 board members do have terms that technically expired at the end of 2022. They stay in their place until they're replaced. Those are Jeff Irvin, Deanie Shin, and Wes Horn. So 2 of them have to be 911 representatives. They do not have to be task force voting members. They can be anyone that the task force appoints to be a 911 representative on the Resource Center board. And then the third one, Wes's position has to be a BESP representative. So I think my first question, I don't know, I know Jeff is on here. Deanie, are you on today?
Yes, sir.
I see her. So Jeff, are you interested in running again? Jeff Irvin? He may have stepped away, so I'll ask Deanie. Deanie, are you interested in running again?
Yes, I'm willing, but I could defer if someone else was really passionate about it.
Okay. Jeff? Just wanted to give him an opportunity.
Sorry, Daryl, I was on a call.
Oh, sorry about that, Jeff. Are you willing to run again for Resource Center Board?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So then the next question is, that's two candidates for 2 positions. So the next question is, do we have any other potential candidates, any other nominations?
This is Andrew Dameron. I would be interested in running if Deanie is serious about it.
Yes, that would be fine.
So Deanie, you're withdrawing your nomination?
To Andrew, yes.
Okay. Anyone else? And then in case we can just vote on this as a slate, I would ask Wes, your replacement, is it Jeff Winkleman? Is that his name?
Yeah, it's Jeff Winkleman. He can't be on the call right now. He's driving through the high desert of New Mexico, but obviously he's definitely interested in taking my place.
Okay. So that's a nomination for Jeff Winkleman. Do we have any other nominations for BESP representative?
And I might add, if I can, Daryl, that Jeff brings a lot of experience and technical know-how to the position as well. He's a 20-year 911 engineer with the company and has already done a good yeoman work stepping up to the job here in the last month. So I think he's a good fit.
Thank you, Wes. Any other nominations for BESP representative? Well, in that case, we have 3 open positions and 3 nominations. So Jennifer, I would recommend calling for a motion to approve the 3 replacements as a slate.
This is Jennifer. I will entertain a motion to approve the 3 recommendations as a slate.
This is Matt, so moved.
This is Jody. I'll second.
Thank you, Matt and Jody. Any further discussion? Is anyone opposed to approving the motion? Motion carries. Congratulations, everybody. All righty. We have a open vice chair position for the 911 PUC task force. Mandy Stolzheimer, who was our vice chair, has moved to a new adventure in the private sector and so is ineligible to hold her chair position. So we are looking for nominations for those who might be interested in serving as vice chair. Daryl, do you have anything to add as far as not recommendations, but duties and requirements for who can serve?
Well, I think just the important thing for people to keep in mind, this is actually a 2-year commitment because the vice chair automatically becomes the chair at the end of the year. So if you don't want to, if you want to be the vice chair, but you don't want to be the chair, then I don't recommend putting in your nomination. But if you're willing to take on that responsibility, then I think it's a great way for people to get involved and to learn more about what happens with 911 statewide. So I would really encourage anybody who thinks they might be interested to put their name in.
Thank you, Daryl. This is Jennifer. So at this time, accepting nominations, you can self-nominate as well. Or you can throw your friend into the ring.
Jennifer, this is Kathy. I would be interested in that.
Thank you, Kathy. Is anyone else interested?
This is Holly. I know that the last election back in December, I believe it was Jody from Denver was nominated by Andrew and had expressed interest. I know that I don't think Jody's on the call today, but I'm just curious if, since they had already expressed interest, if that would still be something they might have an interest in. And I guess maybe I'm asking Andrew, since I don't think Jody ended up joining, or maybe they did.
No, I can speak for her. She's actually on a Caribbean cruise at the moment. So can't speak for herself. I'm fairly confident that she would still be interested in serving in that role.
So Andrew, will you call that a nomination?
Yes, I will nominate Jody Slade.
And Daryl, I'm fine. Sorry, I'm fine if Jody wants it. That's fine with me.
Thank you, Holly, for remembering that.
Kathy, it sounds like you're withdrawing your nomination.
That's correct.
This is Jennifer. Do we have anybody else who is interested? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to nominate Jody Slate from Denver to the vice chair position.
This is Andrew. I move.
Do we have a second?
This is Kathy. I second.
Thank you, Andrew and Kathy. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed to the motion? Motion carries and Jody Slade is appointed to the vice chair position. Congratulations, Jody. On her Caribbean cruise. Not that we're jealous or anything like that. All righty. Moving on, we have the development of the multi-line telephone system requirements messaging for Daryl and Carl. Daryl, you're up.
Thank you. This is Daryl. I don't think Carl is on today, Carl Simpson. He's had some issues recently with a potential violation. It's not certain yet, but potential violation of Kerry's law regarding MLTS operator in his jurisdiction. And as part of the discussions we've had with that, there was a question of whether we had any sort of public education material that PSAPs could send or 911 authorities could send to MLTS operators so that they understand what Kerry's law requires. Colorado statute only refers to the federal statute and regulations saying that they have to follow Kerry's law and FCC regulations. So I know some PSAPs and 911 authorities did put materials together when Kerry's law was enacted, as well as Ray Baum's Act. So I think at this point, all I'm asking for is if anybody has any materials that you're willing to share, if you wouldn't mind sending those to me and or Carl. I think the idea is we're going to put together sort of a genericized version of that and maybe bring it back to a future task force meeting for feedback or input, and then make that available to the 911 authorities and PSAPs. And Matt, you have your hand up?
I believe the EZNet users group drafted materials for that to be used statewide not long
Oh,
after
they
we
did. Okay. I might be
migrated to the
reading
EZNet. And I believe our task force chair had a strong hand in polishing those documents or creating parts of them.
This is Jennifer. Thanks, Matt. I was actually going to throw our link to our stuff into the chat so people can you're more than welcome to use it. It doesn't mention Carrie's Law, but it does mention what multi-line telephone system owners, we recommended them doing in light of the EZNet and the changes that were made and their default routing. So I'm going to throw that in, and we're happy to share as well. But I also would recommend checking out the EZNet users group materials. That link has information. It has a link to the FCC website. It has a link to a document, how to set up your multi-line telephone system. And then for people who are very technically inclined, there's a resource there as well.
Thank you, Jennifer. Always best not to reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. So
the second half of that document is geared towards technical administrators of the phone systems, for example.
very good. Well, thank you. I'll review those documents and see if that maybe we just need to, obviously I needed to be reminded that they existed. So other people probably need to be reminded that they exist too.
This is Jennifer. I'll point out that Matt had a great hand in developing those documents too. So don't let him be all, quiet over there about his role in it. Thank you very much for your help. Mhm. Does anybody else have any other materials that they've developed that would be helpful? And if so, I'd welcome you to shout out here and also send it over to Daryl. I have a question about outreach. Has anybody or any other authorities done any kind of outreach to multi-line telephone systems, either in conjunction with Carrie's Law or after we switched to EZNet?
This is Matt. We've only done it on a case-by-case basis as issues were discovered. We knew we had some long-running issues with the school district, with the hospital here in Montrose and so forth, but we did not do a sort of public education PSAs effort.
This is Jennifer. We worked on plans for a PSA outreach. We looked at doing mailers with the postal system, that kind of thing. And we settled on this website for our jurisdiction. And also we do individual outreach as well, being the default route. When we get a no record found 911, we reach out to the business to try and educate them. And that has worked pretty well. Something else that's kind of tangentially related, as you have larger systems in your jurisdiction that may be looking to upgrade their phone system, it might be worth having some conversation with them about not only Carrie's Law requirements, but if they do choose a number for an outside line, even if it isn't to dial 911, having them pick a number other than 9 could be very beneficial. We were working with a large hospital system in our jurisdiction to educate their employees after we found that we get an average of 2 to 8 calls every single day that are 911 hangups from that particular operating system. And it's because their phone system is ancient and they can't change the dial 9 to access an outside line. So I'm happy to talk with people offline about that if you want more information, but you've got an opportunity there, I think, for your larger systems as well. Okay, this is Jennifer. Moving on, regional ECC emails. Daryl.
So this is something that Jennifer and I have been talking about. And Jennifer, I think we actually mentioned it at the last task force meeting as well, as the idea of potentially creating a regional group emails that PSAP managers could subscribe to and use those group emails to let other PSAPs in their regions know about outages. Just as a way of increasing situational awareness. So I wanted to get people's feedback on that idea, if that's something that you think that would be beneficial. I'd also like some feedback on what kind of regional breakdown, if we do think that's beneficial, what kind of regional breakdown would be helpful for that? Should we do the 9 all hazards regions? Should we do something bigger, like just breaking the state up into quadrants? And PSAPs could join more than one of these. So if they're on the border between 2 different regions, they could join both regional email groups so that they have full situational awareness of what's going on with their neighbors. But I wanted to see if people thought that was a good idea. And if so, how it should be structured, because it's not that difficult for me to create group email addresses and make that an option for people to join. Does anyone have any thoughts? Good idea, bad idea, useless idea?
Daryl, this is Jackie at AdCom, and I was wondering about the RETAC regional groups.
Are you saying follow the RETAC regions for the groups?
Yeah, possibly.
Okay.
Do they,
I don't know anything about those, but I can look it up.
do they follow the all hazards regions?
Somewhat, it's a little bit different. I know Jefferson County would be in a different group than we are, but they're not too bad.
This is Jennifer. So just to kind of elaborate a little bit on the thought process, there in the Western region, we have a Western regional informal group of 911 directors that get together every other month and just catch up in a Zoom meeting, talk about things that are similar to what, similar challenges that we're facing and that kind of thing. But that email group that the invite gets sent out to also ends up getting used for, hey, we're having an outage, and we'll send it out to that group. And so the comm centers around us are aware that we're having an outage. We also use it for questions like, hey, we're facing this. Does anybody have any resources and that kind of thing? So I think that that's kind of the thought process behind this, and we should definitely use it for outages, but it could also be an informal way to communicate with your region if you need to get information out quickly about something that's going on and that kind of thing.
Additionally, we also have the Colorado 911 email group, but it's fairly open membership. Anybody who works at a PSAP can join that group. I think it was Joe who suggested that maybe we should have one just for PSAP and authority managers so that we can share more critical information directly that way. So we could have one that's statewide for all of the PSAPs and authorities, and then we could have ones that are regional, so that if it's something that really only affects your region, you don't have to send it out to everybody in the state. If I set these emails up based on regions, maybe the RETAC regions or some other arrangement, would people use them?
Would there be an expense of setting it up just to see if they get used?
No.
Because then we could take them down if they never get used.
That's true. Nope, just a little bit of my time to set them up in Google Groups.
This is Holly. I'm just gonna say, if people don't express interest now, I would recommend Daryl not put energy and effort into that. Daryl does a lot of energy and effort into things, and then people don't utilize or respond. So I would ask for like a thumbs up on people's.
This is Ryan at Viero. I do have an opinion on that. I like it for maybe it could be correlated to outages, worst case scenario type situations. How does anybody else feel about it?
This is Matt. Ryan, you speaking up kind of shed some light to this. With this being under the task force, then it's vendors as well, not just the dispatch and authority board related folks. That I see where that could be useful, where we might not have vendors on our Western Slope group, which is basically the West and Northwest all hazards regions, but we don't have vendors in that group. And I could see where having folks like you involved in an email thread like that could be useful.
Yeah. Okay. And
And
those
I originally
incidents
only,
be few and far between, but when and if it happens, it could prove itself useful. Even if it was rarely used, at least it's there kind of thing, kind of like your 4-wheel drive.
This is Jeremy with Pickens County. I would say it would be useful even if we could break it up into regions and maybe have some vendor contact in there as well. And then I use the example, we've had swatting calls here recently that have spread through Western Colorado, and that would be a great use for that, just as a heads up type of notification or an outage type of notification that may be affecting others. Just one spot to drop an email out to everybody just to let them know. And sometimes it's, them replying back with resources or just a heads up, what's going on.
well, it does sound like there's some interest in this, so I'll go ahead and set them up and send out, an email to everybody in the different regions saying, if you are interested in doing this, let me know and I'll add you. I'm not going to add anybody if they don't want to be added. This is completely optional. And it sounds like there's also an interest in having vendors be able to join those email groups as well.
Absolutely.
So unless anybody objects to that, I'll go ahead and make that part of the plan as well. And by vendors, I think we're talking about the telecom providers.
I would like to see us be able to maybe get other vendors who perhaps don't normally participate in task force meetings beyond those as well.
Like some of the rural ILECs and things like that.
Yes. Mhm. Some of the other wireless, maybe even VoIP carriers.
I would agree with Matt on that. Jeremy, Pickens County, I would agree with Matt on that. If we can get some vendors that may have some insight to what's going on, and if we can blast out a notification, sometimes it's something they may be aware of that they need to look at and within internally need to put out some publications on, for an outage or something.
And it looks like
Yeah,
Beth,
John-
go ahead.
John Cummings from Charter here. I like the idea. I am concerned that we are walking into the 911 outage notification action by the FCC. So your vendors may want to be a bit more formal about it than using those boards. So I love the idea of creating a bit of a back channel, but we need to be aware of the formal channels and the new requirements.
Yes, and I would say too that this should not replace the notifications you make to PSAPs now. This would be something that PSAPs could use or the carriers could use to help create situational awareness throughout a region. But the carriers need to follow the FCC guidelines and notify the PSAPs directly by whatever means the PSAP chooses. And Karen, you have your hand up?
I did. I just wanted to ask, we're not, a telephony provider. However, we are a provider of 911 data. And a lot of times, as we've seen, we can display calls and do some unique tactical boundaries for different types of events. So I would just ask to be considered that Rapid SOS is in those statewide.
Yes, please.
Yeah, my goal is just to do this, however, is most useful to the emergency call center. So if they see benefit in you being part of that, I don't have a problem with it. Beth said in the chat that she thinks it would be of value even if it's not always used. Patty says that it would be better to break it into large groups instead of smaller regions like Western Slope, Eastern Plains, Front Range. Pam notes that there are 5 mutual aid regions across the state. And Patty seconded that suggestion. Alex says that the larger groups would probably be helpful. And Pam said that she would be happy to share the MAC region map with anyone who needing it and with me to create the distribution list. So let me just ask that then, would everybody be okay with me using the MAC regions as the breakdown for this?
This is Matt. I'd like to see the map.
Is that something I can look up online real quick, Pam?
Sorry, Daryl. Yes, you can look it up under the CCNC website. So that's www.ccncinc.org. And it should come up under the tab, I think maybe resources tab.
There we go.
So it's broken down in a much larger, but my thoughts are, especially in the event of an outage, that many times those MAC channels are requested for neighboring counties, neighboring agencies. So sending it to the region might be pretty helpful in those types of situations.
Mhm. Yeah, I could break it down like this if that's how people think it would be most useful. Karen? Or did you just have your hand up from before?
Just forgot to take it down.
Joe?
It seems to me that whatever regions you select initially, that authorities outside of that region that are like on the boundary, if they want to opt in, they should have that option.
Yep, that's the idea. Because like Pitkin County, they might actually want to join all three of these because they're right on the border of two others. Matt?
Looking at this map and thinking about the 911 network in the state, I'm wondering if the Northwest and Southwest MAC regions should be on one list. Jennifer, what are your thoughts on that? Our Western Slope group covers both of those. Not all of the Southwest, but much of it.
This is Jennifer. I'd be in favor of that.
Okay.
And this is Carl, I would agree with that.
So a modified version of this where we've combined the Northwest and Southwest.
Mhm.
Yes.
Any other thoughts? Okay, I will put these together and start sending out emails, inviting people to let me know if they want to join one or more of these. And I'll also start working on getting it out to telecom providers. Say if you want to join this, you are free to do so, as well as Rapid SOS. And if anybody else has any other suggestions on how to make this useful to you, let me know.
Thank you, Daryl.
This is Jennifer. Thank you, Daryl, for doing that. All right, moving on. We have proposed criteria for PUC staff investigations of BES outages. And this is also Daryl.
Yeah, sorry for making it the Daryl show again. So the new 911 reliability rules, which actually go into effect at the end of this month, require that the Public Utilities Commission staff start doing investigations of particular basic emergency service outages. It's fairly similar to the process already being done by the outage committee, but it'll be done by commission staff instead of the outage committee. The outage committee can continue doing investigations, particularly if they're outages that don't meet the criteria for a staff investigation. The outage committee could do it, or if they just want to do one in addition to staff, they can. The primary difference being that the BESP is required to respond to the investigations, whereas right now, CenturyLink is responding voluntarily to the outage committee. But one of the things that the rules require is that the criteria that staff uses for determining whether an investigation is required should be based on a list of criteria provided by the task force. So it gives the task force that ability to say, these are the list of things that we want commission staff to investigate. So I put together, just as a starting point for discussion, a list of proposed criteria. I did send it out to the task force by email, so hopefully everyone's seen it already. This list is based on the list that's already in use by the outage committee, so I wasn't starting from scratch. I did modify it a little bit, but this is the list that I proposed. Again, we are not married to this. If anybody has any suggestions for improvement or change, I'm willing to listen to that and then my hope is that we can finalize that list after a short discussion, and Jennifer can call for a motion to approve the list. So if you want, I can go through what I've got in here and what it means, because I have gotten a couple questions from people. So essentially, first of all, the rules restrict staff investigations to apparent basic emergency service outages. So we might investigate something that turns out not to be a basic emergency service outage, but if it's an apparent outage, a basic emergency service outage, that's the first step. So it has to be a basic emergency service outage before we are able to do a staff investigation. But beyond that, it would be any BES outage that affects multiple PSAPs, which just means more than one, and we can change that to just say more than one PSAP if that confuses anyone. Details of the outage are unclear from the report. So if we get the final report on an outage and it just doesn't make sense, or there's conflicting information in there, that could trigger a basic emergency service outage investigation. Outages over 4 hours in duration, that came straight from what the outage committee already uses. Unusual pattern of impact, that's kind of vague on purpose so that it's flexible, but it could mean things like it went down, it came up for 30 minutes, then went down again, or anything that just seems out of the ordinary for a basic emergency service outage, and we want to learn more about it. Apparent failure to notify the PSAP in a timely manner. So if the PSAP wasn't notified about the outage, or we learned that from the PSAP, or it doesn't look like the PSAP was notified in a timely manner based on the report, we could do an investigation. Repeated outages of a similar nature in the same area, or in the same area over a short period of time. And I got a question about what that meant as well. That's also kind of open-ended, but essentially we're talking about if you get two outages that are very similar in nature, say it's a card that went bad that caused the outage, and we get it within 2 weeks of each other in the same place, that might be a reason why we would want to do an investigation to find out, why we had the same outage in the same location in such a short period of time. But it's kind of left vague on purpose so that there's flexibility there in determining, what constitutes a short period of time and what constitutes a similar nature. At the request of one or more of the affected PSAPs or authorities. So if it doesn't fit any of these others, but the PSAP or the authority wants an investigation and it's a basic emergency service outage, then we would do an investigation. And there were any potential or apparent violations of commission rules. What the outage committee list has right now says at the request of commission staff. So this kind of changes that a little bit, so that it's not really an arbitrary thing. Commission staff just wants to do an investigation. Instead, we would have to be able to articulate that we think that there might have been a violation of commission rules, and that's why we want to do investigation to see if there was a violation. So that's the list. But if anybody has any suggestions for improvement, or if you think this is a bad list entirely and you want to suggest another one, then I am open. Carl, you have your hand up?
Yeah, mine's not so much, I think it looks good. My only question is can we add something on how cases are closed, and if there's an appeal process, that if the PSAP affected doesn't agree with the PUC closing it, or the BSP requesting to close it?
Yeah, so there's actually the process for these investigations is actually fairly detailed in the new rules, and it does include the ability for the PSAPs to add additional comments or documents to the investigation before it's closed. So, if commission staff comes to one conclusion and the affected PSAPs come to another, the differing opinion from the PSAP will be part of that record.
But they wouldn't have the ability to appeal it or anything?
I think you would always have the ability to file a complaint with the commission. So you could take that route. Let me look up the.
I'm not sure if that's something that would happen very often or at all. I was just more curious than anything.
Yeah, let me pull up the actual rules, the finalized rules, because that might answer the question better than I can just from memory. And my computer really does not like being on Zoom calls and opening files at the same time. gerbils in my CPU are really running that wheel hard right now.
Don't let the magic smoke out of the wires, Daryl.
That's right.
It's hard to get it back into the wires.
I have to let this load. So we're going to scroll down here. And by the way, I do plan on putting together a webinar separate from the task force meetings, because I know not everybody will want to sit through it, but a webinar kind of describing what's in the new rules and what has changed, so that everybody has an understanding of that. There were a number of 911 authorities and PSAPs that were involved in the workshop process, but for everyone who wasn't, it would probably be good for you to have a general understanding of what's changing in these rules. And if I can scroll down enough, okay. So it's 2143K. And it talks about the initiation of the investigation, BESP's responses. We can request a meeting, commission staff, the affected governing bodies or PSAPs, 911 advisory task force, which could be through the outage committee, can also request a meeting with the BESP regarding an investigation. So that's something that the outage committee already does, but it carries on into this process. Communication will be in writing and shared with everyone, so there's no back channel communication about the investigation. Commission staff will document in a report the closure of each informal investigation within 60 days of the outage or such greater period as the commission staff may require. The report should include whether the outage was a BES outage, whether the BESP handled the outage in a timely manner, and whether the BESP has taken or committed to taking corrective action to mitigate a similar outage from occurring in the future, specifying the corrective information. Commission rules or the BESP's tariff. It should also document any non-compliance with commission rules or BESP's tariff. And at any time, the commission staff, the task force, or the affected body or PSAP may commence a proceeding before the commission, at which time the informal investigation process shall terminate. That basically means that if you wanted to file a formal complaint while we were doing the investigation, we would stop the investigation and let the complaint process take precedent. It does not really say anything about an appeal. So really, you know, the ability for you to participate in that will be during the investigation process itself, because I'll be getting information and input from anybody who is involved, as well as the outage committee on the investigation itself. But if it's closed and you wanted to appeal it, probably a formal complaint would probably be your way forward, or a request for mediation.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry for that long-winded response, but you can see it's a lot of words, so I didn't want to misspeak. Joe?
Yeah, I think also maybe an informal complaint, but is there a limit on the investigation going forward if there's a complaint pending? I know that was in the draft at one point.
Yes. So basically, if there's any proceeding before the commission about the outage, then the investigation will stop, because we don't want the investigation to interfere with, you know, a formal complaint or anything else like that. That's what it basically says down here. Any other questions or comments on the list? And by the way, these aren't, even if you approve these today, these are not set in stone. It says that the task force provides the criteria, but it doesn't say that you can't change that criteria in the future. So if at some point the task force or the outage committee says this isn't working, the task force could recommend a different list of criteria. Well, I'm not hearing anything, Jennifer, as far as changes, so I would I would ask that you call for a motion to approve this list of criteria.
This is Jennifer, and I will call for a motion to approve this list of criteria.
This is
Jennifer
Carl.
Ross. Go ahead.
This is Carl. I'll make that motion.
Jeff Irvin, I'll second.
Thank you, Carl and Jeff. Any further discussion? Is anyone opposed to this motion? Okay, that motion carries. Thank you, Daryl. So I know that the agenda looks empty, but we actually have two more items on it. One is the approval of the task force report to the commission, and another is an item that Jackie Marie Louise has to bring up. So I'm going to call for a quick 10-minute break, and then we will come back and address those two items. So let's come back at 5 minutes past the hour.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
I wanted to see it get down to 0.
I was entertained by you messing with time.
Right. Daryl, the Time Lord.
That wasn't me. I don't. Holly, was that you?
Yeah, it was me, but I accidentally started it like a minute or two late. So then I was like trying to run down the time to match it, to have it match Jennifer's 12:05.
Oh, man. I don't think we need to be that detail oriented, but if you have the secret to making time match what you want it to be, I would like to buy that from you.
Only if it goes the
Holly,
other way.
unfortunately, I don't, or I would definitely be marketing that.
Only if it goes the other way. My hair turned grayer real quick there for a little bit.
Amen, Joe. I would like I would like to go back as well to different and non-gray hair. Okay, welcome back, everybody. This is Jennifer. So I'm going to back up a little bit and go back to Daryl, because I think we have a report to the commission from the task force to approve. Daryl?
You are right. And I meant to bring this up during the standing reports, but because we were doing it differently, I threw myself off. So let me share my screen. And we have that in here. So the task force provides a report to the commission every other meeting. So that comes out to 3 times a year. March is one of the meetings where we provide one. I sent this out to the, we've got some extra dashes in here. I sent this out to the, there we go. I sent this out to the reports committee first, and I got some good feedback. So I incorporated that feedback into the report, pretty much just as the feedback was given. So thank you, Tracy. The big changes that Tracy suggested were basically to reorder it a little bit and make it more explanatory at the beginning, because we do have a new commissioner, Commissioner Tom Plant. So this will help explain to him what this report is about and what the task force does. So that was, I think those were helpful changes. So I accepted all of those. So unless anybody has any other changes they want to suggest now, it looks like we've got a couple other comments. What do we have? Let me go through. I think Amanda might have just added those dashes by accident, but it looks like that was the only other suggestion we had in here. So if unless anybody else have any other changes that they want to suggest right now, I would suggest that Jennifer call for a motion to approve the report to the commission.
This is Jennifer. Thank you, Daryl. Does anybody have any other suggestions? Hearing none, I would call for a motion to approve the report.
Jennifer, this is Kathy. I move to approve this report.
Thank you, Kathy. A
I'll
second?
second.
Thank you, Deanie. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed to the motion? Motion passes. Thank you, Daryl, for your work on the report. And I believe Jackie Marie Louise has an item to bring up from the prepaid and collections committee. Jackie?
Oh, I do. I'm sorry. I wasn't used to this new format either. The prepaid and collections committee worked really hard on these documents, and I would like to start using them. And so I was thinking as we were going along that perhaps we need to call for a vote to use them. However, I don't know how many people have actually looked at them. They are in the link to the task force prepaid and collections committee. And what the group did was they initially came up with a sample or draft form to send to companies to ask them to use our template for remittance, which our state statutes allows us to give them a template to use. In this template, we added the penalties and late charges that were allowed by state statute as well. But in order to assess these penalties and late charges that are in this form, we needed to have a policy and procedure on audits and appeals, which the group also did. Thank you, Joe, for all your work on that and all the group members' input. And so we also have a sample resolution, which is included in the resolution that boards file each year to set their surcharge fee or their ETC. Sorry, let me get it the right emergency telephone charge, the right verbiage. And so we included the audits and appeals policy in that document. So if a board chooses to use this form, they would also need to choose to draft and edit to their ability this document that outlines policy on audits and appeals. And again, I think that we need a resolution from, we need a vote from the task force in order to move forward. I would like to see the authority boards I work with move forward with these because we did a lot of work and I think it'll provide a lot of consistency. And then also I think it, with the audit and appeals procedure, I think it might get the attention of some of the providers who aren't remitting monthly or remitting yearly and those kind of things. It would better get their attention. Also included in those documents are the instructions on how to use all of these things. And so like I said, I just didn't want to shortchange the prepaid collections committee with all the work they've done. And I felt like it probably needed a vote from the task force. But I didn't know if the task force wanted to look at these documents further. We did finalize them on Tuesday.
This is Jennifer. Thank you, Jackie, and thank you to the prepaid collections committee for a lot of hard work. Would it be possible to go back, Daryl, to the sample form and just scroll through it real slow, just so everybody can take a look at it and ask Jackie questions if they have any?
The form isn't in any way mandatory. Each authority can adopt their own form and carriers are supposed to use it. It seems like providers would be more likely to use it and have less difficulty if there are a lot of us using the same form. And it would make it easier on them than if we each have a separate or different form.
That makes sense. I saw Carl's hand go up.
Joe kind of asked or said what I was going to say.
Great. Thank you. And Daryl, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize that this is something that the Prepaid and Collections Committee has put together for the benefit of the local agencies. It's not mandatory at all. But one of the things that I think the authorities should keep in mind is that the statute does allow you to charge late fees and interest for emergency telephone charges that are remitted late. However, it also requires that the local governing body have an audit and appeals process written out either through resolution or through local ordinance, whatever your process is. And so that's what kind of went behind this, is we wanted to create a form that included those late fees that the governing bodies could use if they wanted to. But in order for them to use that form, it's really in their best interest to have that audit and appeals process, which is what Joe worked on with this resolution and policy. And Joe did a lot of work on this, and I want to thank him for his effort on it.
Don't reward plagiarism.
Well, I know you did get a lot of it from existing resolutions and ordinances that are out there. So again, no need to ever reinvent the wheel if you don't have to.
Can we see that instructions document too?
The instructions document is something that Joe put together that helps explain how to use the sample policy and resolution. And I'll explain this the form a little bit as well. This form is actually based off of the one we use for the state 911 surcharge. And our form also includes the 988 surcharge and the TRS surcharge. So this one's actually a little simpler, but it automatically calculates if they if they put in that it's, late, it automatically calculates the late fee as well as the interest fee, and then provides the total amount due at the bottom. So again, if that's something you don't want to implement yet, this can be customized. You're not adding in that late interest and penalty, but you can under the statute.
Got your hands up?
Yeah, if there's no opposition or desire by the members to take some time to review these, I would be happy to make a motion today to approve these documents to be examples for the authorities to use.
Thank you, Matt. Any other thoughts or anybody have concerns? This is Jennifer. I think this is a fantastic resource for authorities and PSAPs to use as well. I get inundated with emails about where do we send stuff and how do we do this, and do you have a form, and what are your late charges, and what a great resource to have available to authorities to use. So thank you to Jackie and to Joe and to the Prepaid Collections Committee for putting this together. I would entertain a motion to approve these documents for distribution and use.
So moved. By Matt.
Thank you, Matt. Do we have a second?
This is Carl, I'll second.
Thank you, Carl. Any further discussion? Any opposed to the motion? Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me drop it in.
Of course. But I am going to put you on the spot in open discussion now and ask if you would care to give or if you wouldn't mind giving a quick explanation of the emails that we all got from Honda, maybe, if that's all right.
Certainly, that's all right. I don't really have an explanation other than I, of course, fill it out, and Matt was very helpful in that filling out of those forms as well. But basically, I think that the most important thing on that email was a lot of companies are still trying to remit via zip codes. Zip codes do not work for our E911 jurisdictions, our emergency telephone charge jurisdictions. So if you haven't responded, I'm sure Matt or I would be happy to send you what we sent out. Because like I said, I think that we really, and the other thing the prepaid collections committee is working on is trying to get some better jurisdictions that they can look at. I always recommend that people put in their letters to the telephone service providers or their emails back to them a link to their emergency telephone charge jurisdiction. And Matt, I'll let you go ahead too.
No, you kind of beat me to it. I'd be happy to share our original email response that we shared with Jackie that detailed and explained why American Honda can't do things the way that they were implying or proposing, and how we instructed them to do it in our case.
Carol, you have your hand up?
So yeah, I think Matt, your response to them, because you copied me on it, I think was really good. So I think maybe through the prepaid and collections committee, we could get that out to everybody. I did meet with them after that email to ask them some additional questions about how they plan on implementing this in Colorado, and explain to them again that you can't follow city or zip code boundaries because governing body boundaries don't necessarily match those. I asked them where they were getting their address information for determining which emergency telephone charge should be applied, and they really only have one source for that. It's information they're getting from the customer when they buy the car. We talked to them about if they have an ability to update that. So if the car gets sold to another person or if the person moves, and they said that they are going to be working on that. They may not be doing this for very long because I don't think they realized how much work it was going to be to actually remit surcharges on behalf of customers. So there's a possibility they may be looking into using a tax compliance firm like some of the other small telecom providers use for taking care of surcharges for them, or they may even go to using a third party call taking center like OnStar, one of those types of centers, instead of having the call come directly to 911, which I think might be better for other reasons as well. So
Yeah.
just to let you know, this might not be a permanent thing, but they are already selling these cars that can directly call 911 with the push of an SOS button. So for at least a little while, these surcharges should be coming soon, and hopefully they will get it to the right place. But we've offered to help them if they need help in determining, where the surcharges should go. But we've also told them that when in doubt, they need to contact the local governing body directly to verify that an address is within their jurisdiction.
Will they be NSI calls?
No, they will actually have a phone number that can be dialed back by the PSAP if necessary.
Good.
At least that's what they explained to us.
So what is the desire of the task force? Should our email be sent to the task force or just the prepaid and collections committee?
This is Carl. I think the whole task force so we can see it.
Okay.
So Matt, if you want me to, I can forward out what you already copied to me, or if you want to send it out to the task force, you can.
That's a very good idea, Daryl. Why don't you just forward it?
Okay, will do.
Thank you, Matt and Daryl.
And this is Jennifer. Thank you, Jackie, as well, for letting me put you on the spot. All right, and we are to open discussion. Does anyone have anything for the good of the order? Tim?
Hey, thanks. I just have one thing just to bring to everybody's attention. So this morning, I think it was this morning, could have been last evening, but a bill was introduced. It is House Bill 23-1238. And the title of this bill is Protection for Helicopter Search and Rescue. And while this isn't a Lumen bill, we are helping Representative Taggart, who is out of the Grand Junction area, run this bill. Mesa County Sheriff had come to us, Lumen, with a request to try and change some existing law. And the background is for a period of time, over at least 10 years, we were helping the Mesa County Sheriff's Office by utilizing our helicopter for search and assist. Even though it says search and rescue, I do want to be clear, and we've made it clearer in the bill, but they didn't change the title. We aren't going to be rescuing anybody with our helicopter, but we are just going to be assisting law enforcement with search and that sort of activity, looking for hikers, etc. And so the issue that exists is there's a lack of indemnification for us participating, or anybody like us participating in those efforts. And so we have stopped participating. And so again, the county sheriff came to us and asked if we would be willing to help in pass some legislation that would allow for private entities to assist in these sorts of efforts. And so working with Representative Taggart, we've come up with a bill, and like I said, that just got introduced. This, again, trying to write it so that it is more generic, not just for the Western Slope, or even just for Mesa County, and not even just for Lumen, but for any county that is needing some assistance from a private provider entity that has these sorts of resources, and then just help and assist. So just want to bring that to folks' attention. I'm not sure, really how it'll be received, frankly. I think it should be fairly innocuous. For the most part, it's just up to the state as to whether or not they want to allow for some indemnification with this sorts of thing. And like I said, it's not a rescue. We would never put individuals in our aircraft. And that is, I think, a big component to establishing some indemnification, because we wouldn't be putting folks at risk by getting into our helicopter and then, something tragic happening with that helicopter. So it's just trying to help law enforcement when the terrain or conditions require that they get some assistance. So I see Joe has his hand up.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you're running this bill, is helicopter broad enough? Should it include other, like fixed winged aircraft or other types of things that search and rescue might use that there isn't already immunity for?
Yeah, that's a good question in terms of the immunity. It's the way it's crafted, it would really be more for helicopter aircraft, not just general aircraft. So there is that limitation. I don't know, and that's a good question, if there are some other indemnification clauses out there that might cover other aircraft that could be incorporated here. So that's good feedback. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that to folks. Oh, I see Matt's got a hand up. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Tim, we have an agricultural spray service with fixed wing aircraft that sometimes helps with search and rescue over here.
Oh, okay.
We have around Montrose in our region. We also have new personal pilots that have long been involved in emergency services that will use their own personal fixed wing aircraft. So Joe makes a great point. If this could be expanded, if that coverage does not already exist elsewhere for fixed wing, that would be probably a smart idea.
Yeah, and I think the reasoning behind this being more helicopter driven, but I think we could certainly learn from other types of aircraft that are covered, is it really, this insurance thing came about after the Kobe Bryant helicopter crash several years ago that kind of started some of this concern around that type of aircraft. I don't know that was really warranted, but that's how things happen in our society these days. Things get a little sensationalized and then extrapolated to other scenarios. So. But I do think that that's a good point, though, on the fixed wing. So I'm going to do some research on that. But I think that's primarily why it is helicopter focused, because of the change in insurance and things of that nature around helicopters.
Well, and that because you have a helicopter, that's what your focus is. But certainly there are other people helping with other things. We ought to try and make sure that we're not discouraging them from continuing to participate because they don't have immunity when you do.
Yeah. That's also a really good point. We certainly don't want to discourage things. Yeah. That's all I have, Jennifer. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. This is Jennifer. Does anyone else have anything for the good of the order? Hearing none. Our next meeting is going to be, what is it, May? that right? Frantically checks calendar for the date.
Correct. And that one will be one of our in-person ones. I don't recall where yet, but I'll make sure that everybody knows well in advance.
Okay.
I think the state chapter is about that, or the state conference for APCO NINA is about that time too.
It is, the task force meeting is actually scheduled for the day after the conference. But luckily, and I do remember now, it's in Loveland, so it's right in the same place, or in Johnstown. So if anybody wanted to stay another day from the conference, they could and go to the task force meeting.
So you're saying the task force meeting will be there as well? This is Ryan at Vero.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Larimer County is hosting the task force meeting the day after the last day of the conference.
Okay.
Well, that'll be a great week for public safety. And this is Jennifer. If no one has anything else, then I appreciate everybody's time today and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
This is Ryan at Vero. I move we adjourn.
Matt seconds.
All right. Have a great day and a great month, everybody. Thank
too.
you.
Thanks. Bye
Thank
all.
you.
Take care, everyone.